What the frick? 75,000 rupees? Does this stupid piece of shriveled leather cost 75,000 rupees? The alarm on the top of my head in my office started ringing. Beep, 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 beep. The fire alarm, which never sounded even if someone smoked beneath it. Security guards, which I've never seen in action, burst into my room to see what was wrong. Meanwhile, my colleagues were holding me down, serving me water, and I was on my chair, trying to calm myself down. Let me rewind it a bit. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, it all started in May 2018. I had just walked out of cinema, having watched Avengers: Infinity War. Half the universe had been wiped out. My head was spinning, and then I saw a sign, a savior of my soul. 50% off flat on everything. I decided that the retail therapy was in order. So I entered the shop. It was a local clothing shop called Diners. I looked through their suits and picked up one that I liked the color of. I bought it instantly and gave it away for alteration. 3 days later, I picked up the suit and merrily wore it to the Toastmasters meeting. And only then I realized that there was just a tiny little bit thing wrong with it. The pockets had huge holes. In fact, the pockets did not exist in the common sense of the word. Nevertheless, I kept wearing that suit that came out of my rainy day fund. So I had to keep wearing. I wore it in meetings, I wore it in walimas, and I walked around like this, holding my cell phone in one hand and keys in another. And during this time, 50 new members joined the Toastmasters Club. I don't know why or how, but let's not go there. Nevertheless, the time came when I switched jobs and joined Alkaran Textiles. And guess what I wore on the first day of the job? That same suit. I wore it everywhere. I got the company car and I was handed the keys to it. Now, of course, I kept them in these pockets. One day, what happened was that the keys got snagged in the forest of broken threads that was inside the table pocket. And I pulled it out. Like any normal human being, I spent all my force yanking it out. The ring got disfigured, the keys all scattered on the floor. My home key, my car key, my office key, and a mysterious piece of leather emblazoned with the logo Honda. Then I picked up the car key and tried to start the car and it wouldn't budge. And then my friend told me, my friend, that piece of leather is actually an advanced piece of technology called an immobilizer. Unless it is directly beneath the ignition, the car will not start. Never mind, I manually held the piece of leather beneath the ignition and the car sprang into life. I kept carrying the same suit and the same broken key ring. One day, it was time to submit my resignation to the company, which meant I had 1 month to hand my car and the laptop and everything else back to the office. The last working day before Eid holidays, I got down from my house, tried to start the car, and it wouldn't start. And then I discovered I had dropped the immobilizer. I searched up and down for it. I searched desperate. I looked at every pocket. I looked at every nook and cranny of my house. I looked at every square inch of the ground that I walked on, but to no avail. Then I called the office and said that, I have been immobilized thanks to the immobilizer being lost. And they said, fine, don't worry. Let us ask admin, they must have a copy or something. So in the meantime, I got someone from water pump, brought him home, had the car immobilization system bypassed, the car sprang into life, I drove to office, and then that scene happened when I learned that the immobilizer could only come from Honda and it would cost 75,000 rupees. So that meant that if I didn't hand it back, it would have gone from my own pocket. The Eid day dawned. It was a murky, miserable day, full of rain. There was black, murky sewage water outside the Eidgah. I splattered my feet, and my feet became black. And then I entered the masjid, and I splattered my feet again in the clean water that was coming down from the rain. So self-correcting mechanism. Back at home, I met my neighbor, and he said, "Your car was being repaired yesterday. It's a new car. What happened?" I told him I lost the immobilizer. And he said, "Does that look like a piece of black leather with Honda on it?" Of course, that was the immobilizer. What else could it be? So he had found it, and he had kept it with him. So thankfully, I had the car restored to its original state. It only ended up costing me 6,000 rupees. One bad decision could have resulted into catastrophe, but it merely resulted in inconvenience. But Toastmasters, think about it. Was it one bad decision? No. First of all, buying the suit in the first place without checking it, then collecting it without checking it, then wearing it despite the torn pockets, then pulling out the keys, then not having the key ring repaired, and finally not having the substitute or the duplicate of the immobilizer made. How many mistakes are those? I was lucky to have escaped the most dire consequences of this mistake. But you know what? Sometimes our misfortunes are brought upon us by our own selves. And that is why, Toastmasters, I'm very, very glad to announce that today, finally, I will get rid of that suit. Perhaps.